Let's jump into it. Like, how does this begin? What starts it? How do we get to this point?
So I think there's several things going on. I know, Shane, you have a lot to say as well. But I think that a media that increasingly celebrates victimhood. So there's a lot of currency that one can get, just like Evan Rachel Wood and Amber Heard, who both wanted to build activist careers and credentials on the backs of these false allegations against Johnny Depp and Marilyn Manson.
Exactly.
You also have the infantilization of women. We mentioned earlier the notion that a woman of 18, 19 is now just a child, when in the past she would have been married or well on her way to marriage, having multiple kids, running a household, so forth. What are some factors you see?
I see it's directly connected to Marxism, and it's like what Tim was saying, it's a power play. And you look at Evan Rachel Wood, she came out, for those who don't know, she accused Manson of impropriety, and she came out and said that her abuser was Manson the day after Trump was elected. Clearly a very political move.
And she admitted it was because of that too. She said, because Trump's been elected, I'm going to tell you now who my abuser was.
And he's an easy target because he looks a certain way. He said a bunch of things that a lot of people say are wild, but he's always been the victim, oddly enough, on the in the media.
Right.
So I think it was a power play for her because she saw, like you said, victimhood is a status, and that he was a step in her way up into being like the victim princess, all the way up to creating laws.
Yes.
Right, which is what Marxists want to do to subvert what we have going on today in America, which is like a court of law that you could hopefully trust, which obviously has got flaws. But she used her Manson abuse as a way to go to Congress and to the California state, pass change laws, and also her girlfriend at the time, Ilma Gore, was an activist.
Right.
Ilma Gore, I like to say, was the very first Jussie Smollett, because she claimed to be punched or something.
She
told
this ridiculous story to the media, and this was prior to what Evan Rachel Wood claimed. But she claimed that she painted this work of art. That's her most famous work of art, and it's Trump with a micro penis. And she claims, I guess, that she's just so well known for that work of art that some random Trump supporters kidnapped her and drove her around in a van.
Saw her on the streets of LA.
So this is like way worse than Smollett.
Yeah, but she was pre-Smollett, but didn't get the credit that Smollett got. So I think she's bitter. This is why her and Evan Rachel Wood, I think, teamed up on Manson.
Yeah, and so she started dating Evan Rachel Wood, and it was a kind of a perfect storm where the two of them concocted this plan to not only falsely accuse Manson, but to recruit other former girlfriends and female acquaintances of Manson to also make accusations that one of them has now recanted, Ashley Morgan Smith line. One of the main accusers, she was on the cover of People magazine talking about what a monster Manson was. Well, she recanted in a legal declaration, said that it was a hoax, and she lied, and she was pressured into this by Evan Rachel Wood, and also promised that she was going to have high exposure, and it was going to restart her modeling career and all of that, which didn't happen. But and the other thing that people don't understand is that Manson's former assistant, a woman named Ashley Walters, this was his personal assistant, she gave all of his social media and email information, passwords, logins, his phone information, contacts, everything. She gave all of this to Evan Rachel Wood and Ilma Gore so that they could recruit more women to join this scam. Yeah. Wow. And so what's crazy about the Manson situation is that it really is Johnny Depp and Amber Heard times 10, because as much media play as the Amber Heard allegations got, and as horrible as they were for Johnny Depp, this is really what Evan Rachel Wood did. It is really on a whole other level.
They swatted Manson. You see the government working in tandem. I hear y'all been
swatted too.
15 times.
Yeah, you see the government working in tandem with this victim, this fake victim, like Evan Rachel Wood, like to create the laws to get him swatted, lose all his jobs.
So what's happened to Evan Rachel Wood since then?
She's had multiple documentaries. Netflix
put out a two-part
wonderful HBO, propaganda piece.
Two-part HBO documentary.
But this is all fact that it's a hoax?
I mean, it depends who you ask.
I mean, there's people who would still defend Amber Heard, but no, if you look at the evidence, it is very clear that this is a hoax. And, Evan Rachel Wood, she and Ilma Gore, they forged an FBI letter. They faked an FBI letter and put the name of an agent, a real agent, on this in order to tried to, well, this is a whole other story, but Evan Rachel Wood was withholding her child from Jamie Bell, the father of her child, and she kidnapped the kid and went to Tennessee against Jamie Bell's wishes and ended up losing custody because of this. But she devised this fake FBI letter to try to explain to Jamie Bell and the court why she needed to run away with the kid because she was afraid for her life, in LA.
I would say Evan Rachel Wood is still looked at as a darling, though, in the media.
She is.
Whereas Manson's still, the villain.
She is.
Which is that's the issue. And like, how do you break that spell where, because Manson's made himself this, the dissenter all these years, right? He was blamed for Columbine. He's a controversial figure, extremely, right? Yeah. He was blamed for all these different things. There's all these rumors about him. People believe all of this stuff. And at this point where he's getting Me Too'd, people are just like, oh, that makes sense because he's the monster he's always been, according to the media, right?
Right.
But the media has the media works in tandem with the activists and with the government, So it's like they've created an alternate reality where Manson is the bad guy no matter what. He's a caricature and people buy into it.
And the media,
Evan Rachel Wood is an innocent angel.
Exactly. And the media are not interested, as you know, Tim, they're not interested in the counter narrative. And so there are a lot of people, for example, who are not aware of the fact that Manson's ex-wife, Dita Von Teese, and his ex-fiancee, Rose McGowan, have both come out publicly and said, this man is not an abuser. And so there's actually a great counter narrative in Manson's favor, but the media, they're just not interested in promoting that. And go ahead.
I want to get into just like the core of Me Too.
Yeah.
Right? Like, how does this start?
I think it's a tendril of Marxism to seek power.
What do you mean by that?
Like, Marxism wants to own you. It wants to own the means of production. The humans are the means of production. Like in Maoist China, they destroy all art, language. You now work for the state. And if you don't, you'll get struggle sessioned into oblivion. Me Too is a form of a struggle session. So when I say it's a tendril, it's like that's just one way to destroy modern society, or the West in particular. Me Too became that struggle session, or like, Mao would have dissenters their heads chopped off in the town square while making children watch as they sang the national anthem. So we haven't really gotten to that point yet, but these struggle sessions, these Me Too sessions that happen online where you're kind of digitally stoned are that.
Yes.
To a degree. You lose your whole livelihood no matter who you are, no matter how big it is. So I think Marxism is the seed of the Me Too stuff, just like how BLM was, and they said they're Marxist. The two ladies who started BLM are like, we are Marxist. So that's what this is, and I think it's just out of control. I'm not saying everyone involved in the Manson stuff or Amber Heard are like thinking we're Marxists, but they are. They just don't realize it.
Who was the guy at NBC that got Me Too'd?
Brian Williams?
No.
Lauer. Matt Lauer.
Oh, Lauer,
Yeah.
right.
They claimed that he had a button on his desk that would lock the door, and he was like, that's insane. I don't have that.
It's crazy.
I mean, I don't know.
Well, that's the problem too with a lot of Me Too claims. I mean, I don't know enough about Lauer to say either way on him, but it's a he said, she said most of the time, and so unfortunately, society has just decided, or the media have decided, that when it's a he said, she said, then we believe women.
Well, there's that viral image of the poster at the university that says John was drunk, Jill was drunk, Jill couldn't consent, it was rape.
The media is really good at creating caricatures, and once they can convince you that this person is the caricature they said it is, then they can convince you of anything that person's done. Manson is like the perfect one. Well, so is Trump. There's a bunch of them, but Manson and Trump in particular, oddly enough.
No, it's interesting you can mention in the same sentence, but it's very true.
Because they're both kind of become, I hate to say they're victims, but they're victims of the media apparatus that's turned them into caricatures.
Johnny
where now
Depp.
They can say,
Yeah.
Depp too.
Crazy.
Depp is crazy.
And
that whole
he's
thing is
still
nuts.
getting it. I mean, you were talking about Vice, they're in the pits now, and good riddance to them. But they just came out with a documentary, once again, trying to promote the idea that not only that Johnny Depp was guilty, but also that Johnny Depp's followers know that he hit Amber and don't care because she deserved it. It's ridiculous.
It's crazy. They will create many loopholes in logic to make sense of the narrative they want you to believe. Like they need to cram it down your throat, which is why the Manson thing is so interesting to me, because you were talking about accountability earlier. There's been no accountability for everything you've just described with Evan Rachel Wood. She's literally forged FBI letters.
Kidnapped her
She's
kid.
literally kidnapped her kid.
Lost custody.
All these things. Been caught lying. All this stuff. Other accusers have recanted, like you said. But the media refuses to accept any of that as a reality.
Yes.
And doubling down on Manson being the victim, or the villain rather, or Depp being the villain. I'm not saying these guys are all angels either.
No, we're not saying that at all.
Clearly, no one's perfect.
And I think, and let me just say, I think also that is why it's so difficult for so many men, celebrity men who are caught in the crosshairs of this. It's so difficult for them to defend themselves because they do have some shady stuff in their background.
Right.
I don't mean shady like abuse, but I just mean, rock stars, movie stars, what have you.
Right.
And to me, it really reminds me of The Crucible. If you read The Crucible, the hero of The Crucible, John Proctor, he waits until it's too late to challenge the court. He waits until it's too late to act because he knows that he has an extramarital affair in his background and he lives in a Puritan society and he doesn't want that exposed. And I think that someone like Marilyn Manson, for instance, I know that he's fighting back in the courts, but it is very difficult for him to fight back publicly because he has had that rock star lifestyle. And I know he's got shady stuff in his past, again, not abuse or whatever, but I think that these men are almost, no pun intended, kind of neutered in a way in that they can't fully fight back because you have to be like pure as the driven snow these days to make it.
Even that's not good enough.
No, it's not.
They'll just make it up.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
You cover this a lot. Like you've done Depp and Cuomo and Manson. Do you see it, Me Too stuff, kind of the hysteria dying down now, even though they're still trying to go after Depp after,
I feel like there are two worlds right now. There's the world of normal people, and then there's the media heavily politicized world. I think that normal people are hip to this bullshit now. And I think that more and more people understand that believe all women is a very problematic ideology and believe in the presumption of innocence and are sick of Me Too. The problem is, though, and it's like you were talking about with advertisers, someone like Marilyn Manson, for instance, the position he's in, or others, is that these corporations, these record labels, whatever we're talking about, they're scared to death of any hint of scandal when it comes to anything like assault or rape or abuse. And so there's a lag. I think what's going on is there's a lag going on between the normal people who I think have caught on and the media and the corporate world and these institutions that have still not changed.
Yeah.
The other thing when I think about the Marxist seed of Me Too is that a lot of the people, and it's not all of them, but a lot of the people we're talking about now are dissenters. And dissent is like the highest form of sin to a Marxist, right?
That
Manson
is true, yes.
is a dissenter. Cuomo, I detest the guy. We can talk
What
about
do you
him.
mean, like apostasy?
Like speaking out against their institution, But
Well,
it doesn't have to be all of saying the same thing against it, but they've all kind of proven that they can't be controlled because Cuomo wasn't the progressive left that New York wanted. Manson is obviously.
Yes,
I would consider that tier 2. Tier 1 would be apostasy.
Who would be that? Like,
if you used to be a leftist. I mean, and then you came out and spoke out
who would
against
that be though? Like a Russell Brand, perhaps?
Russell
That's a good
Brand,
example.
Glenn Greenwald.
Yeah.
I mean,
Those are good examples.
my shift is not as pronounced, so I don't know that I qualify, but they
Bill
certainly.
Maher, to some
Oh
degree.
yeah, Jon Stewart now.
Yeah. Because you can just say one thing
It's an
to get out of their good
orthodoxy,
graces, right? You have to
Right,
say,
right.
you have to obey their whole
But
hierarchy.
like any religion, an apostate is worse than a non-believer. Non-believers
true.
are
Yeah.
people who you need to convince. Apostates have abandoned you, and they could
Right.
risk
Yeah.
sowing seeds of discontent.
And that's the thing is
Right.
like even Manson, I guess you could say, is an apostate because they keep redefining what it means to be a leftist or a Marxist. So like, you know, they've moved so far left that anything now is far right to them. And they can just think we as a monolith, they would think if you're not with us, then you must be far right and you must be taken out.
Right.
Which is by the way, after Russell Brand, I was trying to think, I was asking you about.
Oh,
Me Too
Russell
dying
Brand.
down.
I mean, holy
Dude.
crap.
I think the Russell Brand thing is BS too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think it's wild.
I
but
mean, the story's ridiculous.
totally ridiculous.
Yeah.
I hope so. But that's the problem is also, I know, as we all do, there are also really bad men in the world.
Sure.
Clearly bad men do bad things. There's bad women in the world.
And that's
bad
why
things
all this is
happen.
unfortunate.
Do you guys
for them,
remember?
for women too.
Was it Aziz Ansari?
Yes,
got it,
that was
yep.
ridiculous.
Bad
The woman-
date.
Chris Hardwick
yeah.
was another one.
Oh, Chris Hardwick. That was totally
Hardwick.
false, wasn't
Right.
it?
Well, it was false, but what she was alleging was just basically that he was a bad boyfriend. The only thing that she alleged that was serious against Chris Hardwick, his ex-girlfriend, was that, and I'm quoting, that she had let him sexually assault her one night.
What does that mean?
She used the term let. Well, she didn't want to have sex, but he talked her into it.
Heavy
So that was
lifting in
assault.
that sentence.
But
Okay.
Aziz Ansari might be one of the most egregious.
That was just a bad date. I know.
But it wasn't even really that bad of a date. It was just a bad date for her. She did
Exactly.
Like the story for Aziz Ansari was that they went on a date. He said, "You want to come back to my place?" They hung out, fooled around a little bit, and he was like, "Well, it was fine." And she was into all of it. And then she was like, "I did not enjoy that night." And
Right.
And then she's like, "Therefore, it's rape."
Well, and what came out in that story as well is that she wanted to be his girlfriend, and she, at a certain point in the night, she realized, oh, this is just going to be a celebrity hookup. And she didn't like that. Well, you know what? If you don't like it, you leave. But she kept hanging around, hoping that he would change his mind.
Right.
Look at Mattress Girl.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
She carries around a mattress accusing this guy of rape, and then it turns out she was begging him.
Well, he's gotten a nice payout from Columbia University now. Yeah, he sued the school. He got a big payout because that turned out to be BS.
Yeah.
It turns out.
The messages that came out showed that not only did he not do anything wrong, she was asking him. He was
turning her down.
Yep. And she got mad that she got turned down, and then so started carrying around a mattress, saying, this is the mattress I was on when I got raped. And then she filmed a video, an art performance. People are evil, dude.